So I'm making my way through some mailbag here, getting through some questions on the channel, pulling in some ideas regarding board gaming strategy. Not necessarily tabletop strategy, but the human element, the human interaction, the player interaction. Many years ago, and it's been many years, the game is still in the back of my gaming closet with Space Fleet and Dark Future. Do you remember Samurai Swords? Might have been rebranded as Shogun, or it might have started out as Shogun. Maybe Samurai Swords is the newest version. But essentially it was samurai in feudal Japan, various domains, 2 to 4 players. I think it could go up to 6. You went head to head. It was a strategy game, winner take all, to be crowned, nominated, declared Shogun. And there's a lot of games in this title. Game of Thrones, we've played at the gaming club. Essentially, you have your domain, you have resource management, you have some sort of battle mechanics, but there are also elements of building alliances. And on a side note, we see this years ago. The gateway was Settlers. Everybody had Settlers. Everybody played Settlers. Everybody mastered Settlers. And the fine art of that, of course, was who got to place first and laying out the tiles and having resources, but also in the manipulation and the trading and the back and forth as a player in the game. A lot of elements, a lot of interesting elements in terms of negotiation. So the tactic that I've used, and the challenge I find with these games, personally, these days I don't play as many of them, simply because I think the gaming hobby has evolved so much. Board gaming has evolved so much. With the mechanics, co-op games are very, very popular. And originally, we see this with Axis and Allies, Conquest of the Empire. A lot of these early board games, they were war games light. So the idea was you were a war gamer who sat down to play this, and I'm going to try to obliterate you, and you're going to try to obliterate me, and we're going to stab each other in the back and make alliances. The whole thing is very strategic in using guile. People coming in to play board games now, I don't know if they necessarily have that wargaming background. So when we've played it open groups, there's a little bit of saltiness. There's a little bit of upset. There's the potential for hurt feelings. So I think more and more that's why these games, at least in my meta, seem to be a little less popular, and why, while I do have a number of titles, Conquest of the Empire being one of my favorites, they don't always make it to the table. But here's what I've noticed, and then I'm going to open it up to you guys in the comments, because now I'm actually getting a little psyched. I'm getting a little pumped, maybe to try one of these out. Again, once things get back to normal, never commit to anybody. Never make an alliance, period. Just never. And the reason for this, there's going to be a spread. Yes, some games are very close, but at least half of the time, even with tight rules mechanics, non-narrative type Euro mechanics, one person pulls ahead. We'll leave why they pull ahead for later. That person, of course, if they pull ahead, they don't need an alliance. So naturally what you see is, if you have a 4-player game, you have one person that pulls ahead and is clearly dominating. They're on their path to victory. You have one player that's kind of in the middle, so they're just waiting for something to mess up. And then you have 2 players that are at the bottom of the heap. And at that point, you start to see alliances. The players that are at the bottom are going to make an alliance to try and take on someone on the top. There's going to be this back and forth. And the reason why these alliances don't work is because they are directly, you're at the table, right? It's usually right there trying to openly negotiate. And that's going to create a lot of hostility. And you have people, once an alliance is made, physically making an alliance. So, you and I were going to go up against the number 1 player. Well, now they know it. When you've committed to that alliance, the game becomes polarized. And there's just not enough momentum or hidden maneuvers, hidden movement to effectively pull that alliance out, effectively coordinate that alliance, especially if it's a game that has distinct regions and you're in different regions, you're not on a unified front. So what I've discovered is it's better to, I'm not saying go alone and say just openly declare, hey, I'm on my own, no alliance. Possibly. What do you propose? Let's see in a turn or two. Never commit. Never make any commit. It's very laws of power, but it's entirely true. By not committing to an alliance, you don't call down the wrath of the top player, because while they have the resources, do they want to openly, directly crush you? They're more trying to kind of keep their lead in the game, especially if it's a timer game with an objective or turns. And by not committing to the lower player, you're going to court them, and the middle player is going to continue to kind of sit in the middle and see what happens. So don't create alliances. Don't say yes, but don't say no. Try to court some favors. Try to get a bribe of gold coins if it's conquest of the empire, or an alliance not to attack in a certain area. Look, I absolutely want to form an alliance with you. I think we have to, but I need to fortify this area. If you don't attack my border and you let me shift a couple of knights there and some catapults, then I will be in a good position, because I know that is secure, where I can have an alliance in 3 or 4 turns. That has more value than you trying to coordinate and work together. So I'm going to push this up to my channel. And again, in the comments, these kind of head-to-head war game light type experiences, what do you think are some of the fundamental player side, human side, narrative side tactics to effectively manage? And on a side note, my local meta, my gaming meta might not be your meta. What is your meta like? Do these games hit the table? Are they popular? Or do you prefer everyone's kind of on the same side, co-op type games?